goes La Dynamite. It's hour 2 of the most incendiary show on the RADIO. This is the Clay Edwards Show here live in the Men's Health and Women's Wellness of Mississippi studios, where you can always text Clay to 601-800-5130. Get your free testosterone screening today. Well, get it scheduled today. Man, there's so much more than that out there. We'll tell you about that later. Here on let me say it like this. This interview is brought to you by our good friends over at Mazda of Jackson. You can shop them online at mazdaofjackson.com. Of course, you can watch the Mazda of Jackson live stream on YouTube, X, and Rumble. That's this show. Just type Save JXN into those platforms, and the live stream should pull up. And, of course, it's always there on demand anytime you're ready. On the phone, we got our buddy, State Auditor Shad White. Good morning, Shad. How you doing, brother?
Hey, brother. Thank you for having me, man.
Man, thank you. 2 weeks in a row here, so we're on a roll here with you.
That's right. I like it.
I do too, man. I always enjoy talking with you. You're a great follow online as well. You're very passionate about things that I'm very passionate about, so it makes having these conversations very easy. Hey, real quick, man, before we jump into this, I just saw something on Facebook that I think you will find equally as aggravating as I did. They got that new socialist communist mayor there in New York City, Zohran Mamdani.
Yep.
So, they're trying to tax businesses to death to cover all of their socialist programs. Well, one of his supporters has come out and just said the quite part out loud. He says, let's see, Zohran Mamdani supporter says the city should ban businesses from leaving New York because of higher taxes. Quote, we should take their business and we run it for the city ourselves. If we're building a real movement to stop that, we'd actually make it illegal for them to leave. Find them to hell. Let's just take the business and find some random nut job blue hair to run it. That's always worked. So,
they have finally come back around to Stalinism. I mean, that's basically what Soviet Russia was. They could not figure out how to generate the wealth that was needed and stifle any sort of opposition to the regime. And so what do? Well, you just ban people from owning private property, and you ban dissent. And you have people rat on each other when they complain about the government. And so, Mamdani's his election was just a sign that they were going to start trying socialism. And now once they get one step into socialism, they realize all the horrible steps they have to take in order to keep capital there. And it's a nightmare. Like, I wouldn't want to be a rich guy or rich gal in New York City today. Not at all.
No, I saw a video on the Patrick Bet-David podcast. It was a commercial they're running that I think Florida is spending, or South Florida anyway, is spending like $10 million to market the city or the state to these big billionaire business owners to relocate their businesses there. And it's some of these just multi-billionaires. Stephen Ross that owns the Dolphins and a bunch of other stuff. I forgot the other guy's name, but he's worth like $50 or $60 billion. And they got them in this ad promoting or marketing to these other billionaires in these blue cities. Relocate on down here to South Florida. This is where you can scale from 10 employees to 1,000 employees like that. It's really interesting that the state is marketing itself to billionaires, and other billionaires are doing it for them. So it says a lot about how angry they are about having to relocate to Florida to begin with. So it's going to be interesting the next couple of years, see how it all plays out.
I feel really bad for these small business owners. I mean, those are the folks who are going to get hit really hard. I mean, if you think about a person who's poured their life into a small business, an HVAC repair company or something in Queens or in New York City, like, that person is toast. They can't just pick up and move.
No.
And if Mamdani squeezes them with all these taxes, they're going to have to fire everybody. They're gonna lose their business, and then there's no tax base to pay for all the free stuff that Mamdani wants. It just their whole ideology makes no sense.
It makes none. He's going to sit there and say, "Well, you grossed $10 million last year." Yeah, well, our expenses were $9 million. Yeah, but you grossed 10. You're rich. So that's crazy.
Right. I don't understand it.
It's like you want to see it. You want to see it follow through and fail so we can get on the other side of it. But I hate the people that's going to hurt in the process that didn't vote for it.
Yep, agreed. Totally agreed.
Well, Shad, what we're going to talk about this morning kind of plays off that because they got a big problem up there with illegals and immigration and people who are just a bunch of freeloaders up there. And you made a great post yesterday. You uncovered that a nonprofit called El Pueblo that is an anti-human trafficking nonprofit that's supposed to help victims of human trafficking, I believe, or bring attention to it anyway. And they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars funneling it to anti-ICE protest?
Well, this is pretty crazy. So it starts with the Attorney General's Human Trafficking Fund, and that fund gave El Pueblo $200,000. So one of the reasons they said they gave this money to this nonprofit, El Pueblo, was so that El Pueblo would fight against human trafficking. The whole problem is when you dig into El Pueblo, what you realize is that they are an anti-ICE, anti-immigration enforcement nonprofit. They have participated in and organized anti-ICE protests. They ask their followers and their supporters on social media to go to the legislature and advocate against any kind of immigration enforcement bills. And the whole point here is that this is our taxpayer money, about $200,000 of it, going to this crazy organization. It defies common sense. People are sick of this stuff. We do not want our money going to fund these crazy organizations. I've yet to understand how, the organizations on the right, the nonprofits on the right, never seem to benefit from this money. I've never seen a pro-Second Amendment nonprofit get taxpayer money. But somehow the crazy organizations on the left end up with taxpayer money. And in this case, they got taxpayer money through the Attorney General's Human Trafficking Task Force. I mean, imagine if that money had just been sent to a nonprofit that only focused on stopping human trafficking. That probably would have been a better idea, but here we are.
Yeah, I know 2 or 3 here locally that actually do just that are actually ran by that's actually ran by conservatives. Believe it or not, they even go on human trafficking missions where they run operations to save people that are in prostitution rings and human trafficking and all of that stuff. And it's all fundraising, all driven by fundraisers and donations. That money could have made massive differences for. But here they are, and the crazy part about it is it's not the nexus of these ICE raids and whatnot. These are the people that are doing the human trafficking. These are victims of human trafficking that are being brought into this country illegally or taken advantage of once they've gotten here. We all know how this works. The coyotes deal, the smuggling the people across the border, all the deaths, shoving people into 18-wheelers like sardines, U-Haul trucks, everything. That's what it's supposed to be fighting, and they're supporting. It makes my blood boil.
Same for me. And look, this also goes back to another conversation you and I had previously. Today is Attorney General Lynn Fitch'S Human Trafficking Summit. It's going to kick off in about 45 minutes. El Pueblo is listed as a participant in the conference, and they're listed on the Attorney General's website as one of their trusted partners in human trafficking. There will be press at this event. I'm willing to bet you a nickel that not a single mainstream reporter asks a question of El Pueblo or the Attorney General about the fact that they are an anti-ICE, anti-immigration enforcement nonprofit spending our taxpayer money. I bet you they don't get any questions about it. But that's why I'm glad that you cover stuff like this on your show, because it gets the word out to normal people who care about where their money is going.
Well, I'm still trying to get Lynn on record telling us what she thinks about what happened in Minnesota with ICE, because if she's going to sit here and pretend that she supports or admits that she supports Donald Trump and ICE and the anti-immigration policies or whatever you want, anti-illegal immigration policies, if we try to get these people out of our country, do you support our ICE agents in what happened up there? And if you do, why the hell are you trying to arrest officers down here that were being almost ran over or attempted to be run over? They had to defend themselves. It's just, there's a wild conflict that I have a problem with. Very hypocritical. I'm not a fan of Lynn at all. I don't know what she's done, for the citizens of Mississippi outside of get Anthony Fox out of jail, who should have never been in jail. But I digress. This is so aggravating.
Well, I think that every elected official should be held accountable, including myself, and we should be asked our positions on these big issues. And so I've said very bluntly, in writing, for the record, I am a supporter of ICE. I'm a supporter of immigration enforcement. I'm a supporter of President Trump. And I've told people, too, we should methodically, meaning the people, voters, should methodically go to each of our politicians and ask them if they support ICE and immigration enforcement. Because we deserve to know where they stand on all these issues. And you know, we can then make a decision about who to vote for based on that information. And what I find is that, you know, when you ask some of the other politicians what they feel about, how they feel about ICE or immigration enforcement, a lot of them get real uncomfortable real quick. They start squirming and they prevaricate and they give you non-committal answers. We deserve clear transparency from our elected officials. It doesn't matter who you are.
Right. You know, so all week, last 2 weeks, last few months, whatever, I've been outspoken against school choice. And people are like, well, that's a Trump thing. You know, how are you going to step up against Trump? I was like, well, you don't have to agree with everything. But I believe if you're a Trump supporter, the immigration stuff, that is the pillar of what he ran on. Like, you're probably a Trump supporter because of the immigration issue in this country. Yep. So, like, that's you can't be for Trump and against that. Like, that doesn't play well together. That's like being pro-choice and pro-life at the same time. You just can't be. Like, if you're a Trump supporter, you understand that there's an immigration problem in this country, and we got to get it fixed for the future, to save the future of this country.
That's exactly right. I mean, to your point, I think if you had President Trump on this show and you asked him why he was elected, you know, I think he'd probably say, because people trust me to do the right thing and because folks were sick of open borders. I mean, I think it's pretty much that simple. And so now that we get into the middle of the administration, we're over a year in, and President Trump is delivering on what he promised, which is a crackdown on illegal immigration. Now you're getting to see who your real friends are. You're getting to see who the people are that were just along for the ride because he was winning, and who are the folks who actually agree with his agenda for making the country better. And you know, more importantly, you get to see who is going to do a little bit of work to help him. You know, if you're giving money out to a nonprofit that is anti-ICE and organizing anti-ICE protests, that's not any help. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that that's not a lot of help.
No, that's counterproductive. You're doing the complete opposite. I mean, you are helping the Democrat with their future voting base.
Right.
If you're helping anti-ICE protests, you are furthering the agenda of the Democrats.
That's right. That's right. And this issue is not going away. You know, I see Vice President Vance talking about it all the time. That we have to be unified as conservatives in solving this problem. And the more people who shirk away from the president's agenda, the harder it is to get all of this stuff done. So anyway, my big point is, folks think that this kind of stuff, like these anti-ICE protests and these crazy organizations, they think they only happen in blue states. That is not true. We are here in Ruby Red, Mississippi, and we've got some of the same crazy people down here. And unfortunately, just like in California, they're getting some of our taxpayer money.
Oh, yeah, I got sent a couple flyers the other day. There's a group on Facebook, can't remember the name of it now, but there were several anti-ICE protests in January on the steps of the Capitol. So they're definitely happening here in Mississippi, and you know it's coming from taxpayer funds. Shad, is there anything we can do to prevent these organizations getting our money, these liberal organizations getting our money from our quote-unquote Republican Attorney General's office or other offices?
Well, number one, I think folks should reach out to the AG's office and they should say, look, stop spending the Human Trafficking Fund on El Pueblo and organizations like that. Don't do that. Just focus on what it's supposed to be for, which is human trafficking. That's number one. And number two, we're in the middle of the legislative session right now. The legislature is deciding in the next few weeks how to spend your money. So I think folks ought to reach out to their state senators and their state house members and say, look, when I told you that I wanted money spent on human trafficking, what I really meant was I wanted money spent against human trafficking. I don't want money going to organizations like this. Lawmakers can step in. They can write a sentence in their appropriation that says no money for this kind of an organization. They could, change the way the funding is handed out. If the Human Trafficking Task Force under the AG can't be trusted to do it right, well, create a new task force and let's figure out how to spend that money the right way. But lawmakers have a say in this. They're the ones who appropriate the money. They can put a stop to it.
We got to quit giving money to nonprofits period. No tax dollars to any nonprofit as far as I'm concerned. And then completely blow the system up and rebuild it from the floor up, figure out a better way to do this and make sure the money's not being used for anti-American nonprofits. Shad, thank you so much for taking the time with us this morning, brother, and bringing attention to this. You know I'm going to push the hell out of it, and we're going to make sure Lynn Fitch knows that we ain't happy.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
You too. Stay safe. Let's take a break real quick, come back, and I want to draw some comparisons between the immigration issue and the Epstein issue and what is really important to Americans, not just what's important on the internet. And I guarantee you, to everyday average Americans walking up and down the streets of Mississippi, shopping, eating, playing, living, laughing, loving, working, I guarantee the immigration issue is a much, much more important issue than the Epstein stuff. If you flip that and you look at the internet, you would think that the Epstein stuff is the most important thing in the world. We'll be right back here on the Clay Edwards Show. Coming up at 8:35, we'll have State Rep Fred Shanks on. Won't be long. We'll be right back.